San Francisco Bay has more than 450 square miles of tidal water, protected from wind and sea by surrounding hills and by a single entrance less than a mile wide. A perfect location for the growth of a great port. In 1776, the year after the French the town had grown slowly. Scarcely more than 100 years, it has grown from a handful of one-story wooden buildings huddled beside narrow, muddy streets into a busy metropolis. Sweeping views of clean white homes in dramatic settings on hills overlooking the sea and the bay. Like many Mediterranean towns, shaded byways and quiet streets reach up the hillside in this American city. But with the vigor characteristic of its people, San Francisco was rebuilt to become the city we know today.
The Tenderloin District is the inner city of San Francisco. It's 305 low-income buildings in less than 1 square mile. 37,000 residents live here. In addition to that, the city's 6,000 homeless pass through this district every single day. 3 major crimes every single hour. We average 2 registered sex offenders per block. And it's probably the highest crime rate in any other district of San Francisco. You know, it's a beautiful community, but in the midst of the beauty, there's also a lot of pain. Since 2 years old, this is all I've known. There's no excuse why we can't help someone else. And I remember growing up, I had troubles of my own. I actually almost ended my life here in the Tenderloin District. I remember just being right here on Taylor Street with a gun in my glove box, almost ended my life. My wife left me. It's where I hit rock bottom as well. And it's also where I met Jesus. And so for God to call me back to this place to minister, I understand what the people are going through. My name's Christian. I'm the executive director of San Francisco City Impact. And my dad, who founded the ministry, really just responded to a simple act of intervention that started the whole ministry. That was 30 years ago. And it really just changed the course of our family. I mean, I grew up in this ministry, going door to door with my dad as he visited people. And so really this is all I've known growing up is City Impact.
No business plan, there was no strategy. We didn't have any money. I was just troubled. I was troubled because, you know, for 27 years of my life, no one told me about Jesus. I was locked up within myself, came from a very abusive home, and all of a sudden I was liberated by this message from this TV evangelist, and I just felt like, you know, the hope that I picked up from that message of Jesus, I wanted to tell the folks here in the Tenderloin. And so we came here, we started knocking on the doors and just wanted to tell them about Jesus so they can be free like I was free. And that was 30 years ago. We never stopped coming.
You know, what I love about City Impact is it's more than just a collection of inner city programs and like a nonprofit. It's really the idea that, you know, one man or one woman can make a difference. It started with my dad. You know, here's an immigrant from Taiwan coming to the city of San Francisco in the middle of a hippie movement, and then gets saved off Jimmy Swaggart on television. And before he gets any discipleship, he's out there doing ministry in the inner city of San Francisco. Yeah, I just love the fact that it's a changed life, changing lives. It was more God doing internal change in my dad. Before the ministry could expand and grow and before we could be entrusted with more, I know God was dealing a lot with his heart. I remember we used to go and minister in the inner city and then worship in the suburbs. And God convicted him and said, are you too above the people to worship with them? And each time, we cross one of those changed moments in our hearts, like the ministry would just grow a little more. And now it's just like our life. So I just love the beautiful picture that's shown. Starting with my dad, the key is to just stay put.
The rescue mission's here just to be like a refuge for people. It's where we do a lot of crisis work. We see a lot of sick people with the clinic. We take care of them. We feed twice a day. We have spiritual help with worship. We have Life and Development Center where we just give them a lot of things that they can use to get off the streets. It's just a place where we can give the love of Christ in tangible ways.
On any given day, without volunteers, we have anywhere from 60 to 80 people just out there in the community reaching people. And we're serving around 8,000 people every single month. So that's a pretty large impact for this less than 1 square mile district. And people look at City Impact now within the last 2 to 3 years and say, wow, it's really just grown out of nowhere. I mean, exponentially. And I tell people that's wrong. There is no such thing as overnight success. My dad did all the hard work. I mean, 30 years of planting spiritual roots, that's the hard part. Not giving up, that's the hard part. Having the ministry almost die 2 to 3 times, that's the hard part. I think the fruit that we are seeing now is birthed out of that longevity. For 28 years, almost to our detriment, we preach Christ unashamedly. And, we don't get grants from the city for that reason, but we've come to the conclusion, because Jesus saved us and changed us, that that's the best thing we have to offer this community. We exist to intervene on behalf of the people in the inner city of San Francisco. And what we've seen from day one is, in the midst of intervening, we've also found that it's not just changed lives that are happening here in the inner city, but it's the people we're mobilizing to serve and intervene. Their lives are being changed as well. I mean, the greatest gift my dad gave me is that he always got himself into impossible situations that God had to rescue him out of. Because I tell people all the time, I can stumble, I can fall, but I can't doubt God's for real. I've seen it. I've seen God too many times work in my dad's life. And that's the gift he gave me. And I just know that my calling right now is to honor the past, but not to worship it. We want to impact this city, man. We want to change this community. Out of the worst district, could there be a revival and a spiritual awakening? Could we export Christian missionaries from the inner city out to other cities in America? That's our hope for this community.
When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were confused and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. He said to his disciples, "The harvest is great, but the workers are few. So pray to the Lord who is in charge of the harvest. Ask him to send more workers into his fields."